Global Climate Change Report for June 17th. I'm Ashley Deanne, and these are the major global warming stories of the past week. On June 8th, Reuters reported that some U.S. energy executives believe that Washington is only paying lip service to growing public pressure to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Rather than rail against regulation, the power and gas company executives called for uniform national policies instead of a state-by-state patchwork of measures. They also said the government should earmark any money generated by new taxes or trading schemes for developing technological solutions for reducing and trapping carbon dioxide and other global warming gases. Bruce Williamson, chief executive of independent power generator Dynegy Inc., said, quote, "The biggest thing lacking on the carbon issue right now is the federal leadership," end quote. The executives made their comments at a Reuters Energy Summit in New York. Reuters also reported on June 8th that U.S. religious leaders, including Episcopalians, Catholics, Jews, and evangelical Christians, have agreed on the need to confront global warming, while other faith representatives still question the climate change threat. Presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church and a former oceanographer, Reverend Catherine Jeffords Schori, told the Senate's Environment and Public Works Committee that most religious people have reached accord on the need to act. She said, quote, "While many in the faith community represented here today may disagree on a variety of issues, in the era of global warming we are increasingly of one mind. The crisis of climate change presents an unprecedented challenge to the goodness, interconnectedness, and sanctity of the world God created and loves," end quote. On June 8th, the Associated Press reported that the Bush administration is considering less expensive options to putting up 6 new weather satellites equipped to monitor global warming. The administration has been planning to cut back the National Polar Orbiting Operational Environmental Satellite System, also known as NPOESS, to 4 satellites and omitting or downgrading the quality of most global warming monitors on them because of growing costs and technical glitches in the program. White House Science Advisor Jack Marburger told a House subcommittee, quote, "Our concern here is that we move ahead," end quote. He said the administration has not ruled out staying with the 6-satellite plan. On June 11th, the Associated Press reported that Congress is saying it will join the war against global warming by cleaning up its own backyard, which is cluttered with coal-burning power plants, a fleet of fuel-inefficient vehicles, and old-fashioned lights. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has set a goal of making House operations carbon neutral during the session of Congress, meaning the House would remove as much carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as it adds by the end of next year. Pelosi said in announcing the initiative that she would also shift the House to 100% renewable electric power. Quote, "The House must lead by example, and it's time for Congress to act on its own carbon footprint," end quote. On June 12th, the Los Angeles Times reported that tougher fuel economy rules, which have been blocked for years by Detroit automakers, now stand their best chance of clearing Congress amid heightened concern about gas prices and global warming. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, a Democrat from Nevada, predicted, quote, "It will happen," end quote. But that's not to say that the fight is over. Environmental groups hope to strengthen the legislation, which would create higher miles per gallon standards as it moves through Congress. The auto industry and United Auto Workers contend that the measure is too drastic and warn it could deny consumers the sport utility vehicles and pickups they want, damaging an important sector of the economy. On June 12th, the Washington Post reported that nearly 300 college presidents have agreed to raise awareness about global warming and limit their institutions' emissions in moving towards climate neutrality. Modeled after the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement, the American College and University President's Climate Commitment has a goal of driving environmental change through research, education, and reduced emissions. So far, 280 schools, including the University of Maryland, James Madison University, and Howard Community College, have signed the pledge. On June 13th, the New York Times reported that as the Senate began debate on the sprawling bill to reduce oil consumption, top Democrats were circulating a proposal to provide $10 million in loans for plants that make diesel fuel from coal. The proposal highlights the horse trading involving powerful industry groups as Democratic leaders push for legislation that will require higher mileage in cars and a huge increase in the production of renewable fuels made from plants like switchgrass. But many environmental groups are flatly opposed. Eric Pica of Friends of the Earth said, quote, "We don't think the federal government should be subsidizing liquid coal. From a global warming and environmental position, liquid coal is an unacceptable source of energy," end quote. The bill is being circulated by Senator Jeff Bingaman, Democrat of New Mexico, chairman of the Senate Energy Committee and the energy bill's lead author. On June 13th, the Los Angeles Times reported that with pressure mounting on Democratic presidential candidates to adopt hardline positions on curbing global warming, Senator Barack Obama backtracked from his long-held support for a controversial plan to promote the use of coal as an alternative fuel to power motor vehicles. The Illinois Democrat made his announcement with little fanfare in a dryly worded and technical-sounding email sent late in the day from his Senate office to environmental advocacy groups, and did not mention the issue during an appearance at a Brentwood gas station designed to shore up his green bona fides with a renewed call to nationalize California's ambitious goals for reducing carbon levels in fuel. At issue is legislation introduced in January that would give the coal industry tax breaks and other incentives to harness the abundant natural resources as an alternative fuel. On June 14th, the Associated Press reported that Senate Democrats proposed a requirement that 15% of the nation's electricity be produced by wind, biomass, and other renewable energy sources. Democrats are trying to include the renewable fuel requirements on a broader energy bill before the Senate, but they faced strong opposition from senators who worried that such a national mandate would raise electricity costs in some states. Democratic Senator Jeff Bingaman from New Mexico, the proposal's chief sponsor, said getting utilities to use more renewables will reduce our dependence on traditional polluting sources of energy and make a start in cutting carbon dioxide linked to global warming.
How can we dance when our earth is turning?